Hello, my name is Sue Uhal, and tonight I'm going to discuss with you the effects of computer-assisted instruction, or CAI, on reading comprehension in secondary students with learning disabilities. This is a review research project. As I examined the problems found in reading, I found that researchers um, discovered that 67% of our students are reading below proficiency level. In this chart, you'll see the trend in 8th grade. Now, I'm focusing on secondary students, which covers 5th all the way through 12th grade. The trend in 8th grade students and their achievement level results. In 2019, only 34% of our students were proficient or above proficiency levels in reading. As I went through the literature review, I also noticed that there were certain past interventions that were used within the classroom, such as small groups, accelerated reader. This is a subscription-based program. Cooperative learning was used. So the impact on students who have reading disabilities and learning disabilities include decoding barriers, where there's so much energy placed on discovering what a word actually means that there's limited energy spent on the actual understanding of the text and those words. Some students actually don't have decoding issues so much as they experience the comprehension barriers. Perhaps their vocabulary is quite limited, or they have intellectual disabilities that prevent them from accessing the general education content. Both of these barriers lead to school failure and eventually dropouts. So the entire purpose of my review project was just to examine the effect of computer-assisted instruction and assistive technology and what that effect is on the reading comprehension levels of secondary students with learning disabilities. For the past 7 years, I have used a computer-assisted instruction reading program which is research-based, and my goal was to find out what other programs were out there and what the data would include on the success rates for reading comprehension level increases. As I went through and tried to locate all of my research, I located 20 quantitative, qualitative, and review studies to examine. Student participants ranged in ages from 3rd grade all the way through 12th. All post-secondary learners. The studies were eliminated, as well as pre-K through 2nd grade. Even the 3rd grade students, there was 1 to 2 participants at that grade level. There were over 26,000 students that participated in these studies throughout the United States, Sweden, North Wales, and Taiwan. And here you see a list of the actual keywords. The initial keyword I used was reading comprehension and learning disabilities, followed by computer-assisted instruction or assistive technology. And the last was the secondary students. Clearly, most of the research found did not dwell upon 9th through 12th, but it did include the middle school age students. So I divided my research into 2 sections, computer-assisted instruction, and 8 of the 20 studies focused on either comprehensive computer-assisted instruction or supplemental CAI. That comprehensive instruction is where a teacher actually uses the digital format. They actually use that computer-assisted instruction within their instruction, and then the students follow up with additional practice, comprehension questions, things like that, to improve and practice their reading comprehension skills. The supplemental comprehension instruction is when a teacher teaches as usual and students follow up with tools such as built-in reading comprehension questions. And a good example of this would include the Accelerated Reader Program. So throughout the research, there were several examples of specific CAI products that were reviewed. The first being the Read 180 program. This is the program that I have the most personal experience with. There's the Reading Plus program, HeadSprout Early Reading, and HeadSprout Comprehension. The early reading is based on the primary grades for elementary students, and the HeadSprout Comprehension was actually used with students with autism spectrum disorder. There was a story mapping, Lexia, and the failure-free reading. The failure-free reading that centered on silent and sustained reading among our students. The second portion of the research that I examined dealt with the assistive technology piece. The assistive technology piece was quite interesting to reveal as researchers found that students with learning disabilities show an increase in reading comprehension when they're using the assistive technology. There were 8 studies that showed an increase. There was one that did not show that it had no significant gains. Some examples of the beneficial assistive technology, and I'll start from the bottom, is the text to speech and the speech to text. Clearly, those are the most common found because it's located for free on all Chrome-based products and PCs used within schools. So that speech to text, text to speech, students are used to using that within their phones. So those are popular among students because it does not set them apart from any other student within the classroom. Clearly an important measure within the middle school and high school setting. The Kurzweil 3000 is a subscription program, and within those 3, there are qualities such as text highlighting. There is the speech to text and text to speech, which allows students to listen to reading passages, and also web-based programs as well. The use of assistive technology within the classroom provides students with additional choice in their learning. They can use things like those highlighters and adjusting fonts and voice styles. And researchers found that students became more engaged in their learning, and because they have that choice, and they are also displaying more motivation to learn new concepts. The social learning theory that I adopted throughout this research was Vygotsky's zones of proximal learning development. Researchers concluded in their studies that students who use computer-assisted instruction and AT found that they're better able to learn when feedback is meaningful and frequent. Students also found that when equipped with adequate tools such as speech-to-text and text-to-speech highlighting and the computer-assisted instruction, they were better able to access that general education content material. Of course, the zones of proximal learning is that sweet spot, I like to call it, where students are learning skills that they're not just independent already in, nor are those skills unachievable. They can learn those tasks with the assistance of the computer or teacher feedback. And they use the CAI and the AT to become independent and increase that reading comprehension. Clearly, in all the studies that I examined, there were some limitations. Primarily, the very first one, students had very few, the studies had very few participants in grades 9 through 12. Of the over 25,000 participants, only 446 were actually secondary students in those grades 9 through 12. There were many more that were actually in middle school, but only 446 as counted in the research. Some of the studies I examined were review studies, and they counted students between grades 4 and 10, limiting, displaying the number only as a small participation sector in grades 9 and 10. So no exact numbers were given um, for that section of the population. And the other limitation was that the majority of the research was published between 2010 and 2015. This is a limitation because so many of us know that when dealing with technology, we're often used to using the latest gadget, the latest trend. And when there's that lag time between the actual study and the publishing date, it leads to less of a relative, it's not relative to what's going to be useful in the classroom. So suggestions for further research? Certainly, it needs to be centered on students grades 9 through 10 or 9 through 12 with learning disabilities. Only, like I said before, only 9 of the studies focused on the high school level students. And only 40% of the 20 studies were published in those years 2010 to 2015. And technology is just changing constantly, so that data results with in limited relativity. For staff, we see that students will see an increase in their reading comprehension. They're also becoming more independent in their learning of tasks with the use of AT, and using that assistive technology and computer assisted instruction. Researchers found that it prepares students for 21st century learning skills, which is necessary for life. Students, on the other hand, found that throughout the research that they face fewer barriers in decoding when they use highlighting tools and speech to text in that assistive technology. They also find that they're much more motivated to complete tasks because they do not feel different from their peers. And students increase that motivation, and they learn that they can access that general education content on a much broader scale. In conclusion, research the research review uncovered just a need for further research in that area of reading among secondary students with learning disabilities. And that assistive technology and the computer assisted instruction are so common because more and more schools are moving towards one-to-one learning, especially in this pandemic time, where schools are going to virtual learning more often than not. And overall, efforts just need to be made to increase the use of technology at the secondary level to further reading comprehension instruction in class and practice. Here are the references used throughout this study in this presentation. And thank you very much.